We feel honored to be able to connect with some of the most amazing people through this podcast. In this episode, Jane and I sit down with EP10, an international holistic therapist who has dedicated her life to helping individuals break free from their limitations and embrace their true potential. Edit is a Reiki master, a Sakim healer, and a karma yogi practitioner. In our discussion, she outlines her practices and her healing techniques to help people truly heal from trauma. We hope you enjoy this conversation as much as we did. All of her information can be found in our show notes. Hey everyone, welcome to Invisible Tears. Amanda here, your co-host, and of course I'm here with Jane, our host as well. How are you doing today, Jane?
I'm wonderful. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. And I'm super excited to have a guest on. Her name is EP10, and she is a holistic therapist, a success habit coach, a #1 best-selling author, a humanitarian award winner, and an international speaker. Edit, thank you so much for joining us today. Did I miss anything? Do you want to add anything to your bio?
Hello, everybody. Hi, Amanda. Hi, Jen. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.
Actually, also my background is like a Reiki master as you, Amanda, and I'm also a Shakhem healer and a karma yogi. And this is kind of like the base of my spiritual conscious spiritual practices, I would say, because I did some unconsciously some spiritual growth before this, but when I consciously started to do spiritual practices, that's started with Reiki, basically, like 20 years ago.
Wow. So you've been into Reiki for 20 years.
Yeah, I was suffering from panic attacks in my 20s, and I was still a student, a university student, studying for becoming an engineer. And I just didn't know what's going on with me, what's happening. I was scared, and then I didn't want to do any medication. So that's how I got into Reiki. And then it helped me to manage basically panic attacks for a while, like 10 years, 15 years, when eventually I found karma yoga healing, which was a more profound healing for this and for other mental issues.
Wonderful. And so you mentioned karma healing. So exactly what is karma healing?
So karma yoga healing is a 60,000 years old Adiyogi Shiva technique from Kashmir, and I was taught this by a Sumant Kaur, karma guru. He passed away in 2022. Unfortunately, I learned this in 2018 from him, and then I also went to retreats to India. So why is it so? People would think that karma yoga is maybe asanas, doing some yoga moves, but it's more about breathing, and it's also about connecting with the supreme pure consciousness, with the source energy, and connecting also with your unconscious and with the soul family unconscious. And by exploring your multidimensional existence, you realize that you can actually move around in these layers and heal them and clear them. Because most of the issue we are experiencing right now and why we are getting triggered is because of our past experiences, either in childhood or even past lives, or our ancestors went through something, and that was like coming down on the lineage to us, and we experiencing all of this heavily. And nowadays even more. So why is it seems like more and more people is getting mental illness issues, right? It seems like that. It could be that you would say, oh, maybe it's just because people start talk about it, and maybe 10 or 20 years ago people didn't talk about it, right? Or maybe it's 50 years ago. But I think it's also because the veil is thinning, the people consciousness is rising, we are getting awakened. So we're feeling more of those layers. We're feeling more of those existence, which we haven't felt before because we were just so in the reality. And now it's because of it's happening, is like the whole consciousness is rising, you feel those layers, and then you got hit, like wake up in the morning and you feel like, what's wrong with me, why I'm anxious, why I'm having this, why I'm having that. And then you don't realize that is actually a childhood trauma, is actually a past life thing, or something else is bothering you.
Yeah, it's really interesting to actually hear you describe that in layers too, because that is actually another thing that I had never thought of quite often when I personally am working with people, and I try to just simply explain, Reiki healing, and Reiki energy and how that process works. Um, Very broadly, I tell them, I just say, everything is energy and you have an energy field. And anything that happens to you or happens around you, or you bring up a fantastic point, maybe even happened in your past lineage, in a past life, or something like that, it could imprint within you. And all I do is I just help you clear your energy field. And most of the time people are like, oh, okay, all right. And sometimes people are like, what are you talking about? So in your work too, you've obviously worked with a lot of people in dealing with trauma. So when you work with people that have experienced trauma, what's your process? How do you go about working with them?
It depends how stable they are or what state they are in. If they are like having panic attacks or they are unstable even to sit down to do a meditation, then I start actually first with energy healing, which is Reiki or Shekhem. And then after like a couple of days they feel better, then we can start doing the process of meditation and the source memory healing. And the meditation is, I use the Samadhi meditation, which brings them into theta and delta brain waves, so they transcend. Basically, they activate their pineal gland and they transcend into the subconscious and unconscious level. So that's where we can actually connect with the specific memories which are related to their current trigger. So even though they come to me like, so some people come to me with the memories, right? So they remember the situation. But some people is having PTSD, but they don't know they're having PTSD. They just know that they have triggers right now. Like they got triggered by at work, they get triggered maybe by their spouse. So then when we tune into like what's the core of the trigger, we find out that they got hurt when they were a kid or they got hurt in their past relationship, and we clear those past incidents out. And the unconscious mind is what heavily help us to bring in the right memories. So it's not a conscious decision like, oh, do you remember what happened when you were 5? Or do you remember if anybody insulted you when you were a child? Or and then they start to like brainstorm and finding the things. No, it's absolutely like they just relax, they transcend, and the unconscious mind is bringing in the memories.
Yeah, that's interesting. Jane, do you want to share with Edit about some of your triggers with your PTSD and sort of like how you cope? She may
Yeah,
actually have some suggestions.
I don't like surprises. I don't like unexpected things. That just it triggers me really, really bad. I don't like if I make plans and I plan on doing something and my routine is thrown off for some reason or another. That is a trigger to me. Um And I get real bad anxiety, especially if, um, like, I've had a few incidences where people have recognized me off of TV and they come right up to me and they're like, "Oh, I know you." And and that is a trigger to me too. I have to try and put on that face and, "Oh, it's nice meeting you." And, you know, but what people don't realize that when you come up to me and you're in my face and I don't know who you are, that is a major trigger to me. Um, I have a lot, but since I was doing the counseling, I don't have that many triggers as much now as I did before. And of course, Amanda helps me a lot too. Um, she she pretty much knows if she hadn't heard from me for a while. Sometimes I like to isolate myself if I'm just feeling like, okay, I just can't deal with anything right now. And I isolate myself quite a bit. I will isolate myself for a week, maybe sometimes 2 weeks or longer. And Amanda is really good at seeing that. And so she doesn't try to force me to have conversation with her. She just lets me be for a little while, which I know some people are like, well, is that healthy? Is that healthy to keep yourself isolated for a week or two and not want to deal with anything? Um, to me, I'd rather do that for a week or 2. I'll do little conversations or shoot Amanda a little message. I'm okay, but I need to be. And, and then, little by little, I come out of it, and it's as weird as it sounds, it's almost like, I'm gathering energy that I've lost in the past couple of months. And once I do that in that isolation, it's like I'm gathering all that energy back. And then a week or 2, I'm good. Is that normal? I don't know. But it works for me. It's what I go through.
Yeah. So what I recommend to people who's not working with me yet or not doing anything with my practices, but having similar situations like you, first of all is like checking their diet to make sure that they have enough vitamin B and enough iron. Because one of the biggest thing what is causing panic attacks, anxiety, is that if they are deficiency in iron or vitamin B or magnesium. So that's first, like for example, vegan diet, but not proper vegan diet, then people can experience higher, amplified symptoms. Basically, that's the one thing. So that's what I first ask, like, are you taking these supplements? Are you eating healthy? Because that would help you a lot. And then the other thing is what I ask, like, okay, so setting boundaries, what you do in those 2 weeks, you're basically setting boundaries. You're taking you outside, you're taking yourself out of the game because you feel drained. And this obviously this is the best thing what you can do if you don't do my procedure. So basically, because if you stay in the game with that drained situation, then you can get worse, right? You can start to have panic attacks, you can go into more deeper depression or even having physical illnesses. So taking yourself out of the game is very smart. And then gathering energy, as you're saying, and then because it's true that when we are in a crowded places, like with people, communicating with people, being around with people, you start to get drained if you allow it to get drained, if you don't know how to protect your energy. And also if the people have certain expectations and thought patterns towards you which is not aligned with your own vibration or own goals and desires, then basically they create these cords, cords of attachments which are also draining you. So, and then you being a more known person, many people can have thoughts about you, and thought patterns, and then they can create these attachments even you not knowing about it, right? So a cord cutting procedure will be really great for you. And also filling yourself up with a light, it's another procedure which I teach my clients, is like very quick, like a morning routine, filling up yourself with light from the source, just filling your body up with light basically. And the cord cutting is also not a long procedure. I was just talking about this 2 weeks ago in my release with this episode, how to do the cord cuttings. So these things could be help, obviously, for like a temporary fix, I would call them, in your situation to feel more empowered. And also, I always recommend that. And doing it like a daily basis, because probably you not doing this, so you accumulate all of that heaviness. And then when you feel like, okay, I'm saturated by, you know but if you do like the cleansing and this energy, filling up yourself with light and the cord cutting. And I also recommend, like, every evening when you come home from people or crowded places, take a shower, and imagining that the shower is actually washing up also negative energies, because it does, but it's when you imagine it is more, even more powerful. So using the 4 elements like the water, fire, air, and ground to cleanse yourself, it's very powerful. So one is the shower is the easiest, I believe. So it's just to have that kind of custom. It's just imagining that you're washing off with the shower all these heavy things, and then you already feel like refreshed, more energized. So there are these little techniques you can use, but basically I call them just quick fix, because what happens is your trigger is going to come back, right, when you get triggered. So in my case, what I do the deep healing is that we start with the trigger, okay, how this makes you feel. We dive into those emotions, and then the unconscious mind connect it with the past trauma, and then we release it from the deep core, from the memory. And then you're not gonna get triggered again for the same reason, because you release it properly, you forgive, you let go. So you're the lesson kind of learned, so you don't need to get triggered again. Because many people is in patterns, there is a pattern returning back to their life. For example, when people going through abuse, I have clients who went through abuse several times in several relationships, is because it was a pattern, because they haven't released the core trauma, so they attracted always the same trigger in their life. And then when you do the healing on a deeper level, then you attract good people, start to attract better people, better situations. It's like going into a lucky syndrome, like suddenly you feel like you have a lucky stream instead of the emotional roller
Yeah,
coaster.
that makes sense.
Yep, it absolutely all does make sense. You started going into it a little bit by piece, but do you want to talk a little bit about your views on like mindset and manifestation?
Oh yes, absolutely. It's a great thing. So I also learned it from the Karma Guru about mindfulness. So when we are actually mindful, it means that we have positive thoughts, we have positive emotions, and we take inspired actions. So many people is actually struggling having positive thoughts, right? We are having continuously like negative assumptions about the future. We have worry and fear of the future, and we assume certain things, which is not how we would love to have it. So it's like a lot of if and then lots of fear going on. So those negative thoughts is creating triggers already. So you don't need even to go outside to get triggered. You can trigger yourself, just through your thoughts. And it's even worse than the outside triggers. Like I always say, okay, cut horror movies, don't read thrillers if you are going through some anxiety and depression, or don't watch news. That's like obvious. But what can you do with your own thoughts, right? So with your own thoughts is like how to smooth it out, how to make sure you are positive. So trying to shift it into positivity and believe in good things coming to my way, or counting my blessings, being in gratitude. I will tell you how to do that on an easier way. So the next step is like when you get into a positive thought, then you have positive emotions, because you have like, oh, I'm so grateful for this and this, so I'm so happy, right? I'm so joyful. So then you have these positive thoughts, then someone is asking you out to do something with them, or you have like a inspired action to go outside, take a walk, or start a new business, or start drawing, or whatever. Like an inspired action is coming in more from a higher vibrational space, right? So how to get there? So when people comes and says like, oh yeah, all the coaches out there saying that I should be in a positive, thoughts, I should be in gratitude, I should think positive. How can I do that when I'm depressed? I am in the rabbit hole, so on and so forth. So that's when samadhi meditation comes in. So when you start practicing samadhi on a daily basis, just doing that meditation is actually by you activating the pineal gland, you start to produce the necessary hormones on an extra boost: melatonin, serotonin, oxytocin, growth hormone. And what's happening to you is like you have a better sleep, you become more focused, you become a kinder person, a calmer person, and you're also having a more vital body because of the growth hormone. So just doing like a daily meditation of this samadhi specifically, then you already start seeing the change within you. I heard from people like they were even commenting under my meditations in my YouTube channel, or other places, that they haven't even been my clients, but doing the meditation, they said like, oh, it's changed my life. It's already, I felt so much different, and I felt so much in peace. So you need to get to that point to feel that you can be actually grateful. You can actually think positively about your future. And when you do this meditation, is because you're activating the pineal gland, you're also opening your third eye. And the third eye is the one which is, if it's blocked, that's when you feel the fear and the worries. And then when your third eye is open, then you are more channeling your higher self, and you have more vision coming in and more positive inspiration, the breadcrumbs of the universe, like more synchronicities, more positive
So, can
interactions,
you
basically.
get more specific about how to do a healthy meditation? Like, are you laying on a floor? Are you laying on a bed? What are you thinking?
No, I mean, actually, the best is to sit up straight, because we are connecting to the source energy also in the meditation. So when you sit up straight, you are more connected, straight with the energies. And then we activate the eighth chakra as well. So in my background, there is the seven chakras there. But if So that's what people knows more about the 7 chakras. But there is an 8th chakra, which is the chakra of your aura, and then it's called soul star chakra. And this is the one which opening the portals between your layers, between your other existence, or multidimensional existence. And this is actually connect you to other souls as well in your soul family, and so on and so forth. So basically, in this meditation, we first activating the chakras. So bringing light into the chakras, spinning up the chakras. That's the first thing. And after we start breathing between the 8th chakra and the root chakra, we start a breathing, like the Kundalini breathing, right? And then after that, we start bringing in light into the cerebellum and the pineal gland. So the activating the pineal gland is through bringing in light. And that's when the activation happens, that's when you transcend. You feel so peaceful, and your brain is just goes quiet, like you're going underwater kind of way. Like when you are above water is noisy, when you're going underwater is so calm. It's like many people is trying to meditate, just quieting the monkey mind. But the truth, when you do samadhi, is so instant. It's like you just transcend, and it's effortlessly just becomes quiet. Your mind is just empty. So it's pretty nice also for people who's suffering from insomnia. They can do it in the evening, so it's much easier for them to fall asleep, or have a good night's sleep. So it's good for many things, obviously. And you can find the meditation for free on my playlist on Magical Karma Priestess YouTube channel.
It's really fascinating how much just putting specific, thought and intention, and doing a specific exercise, like you were saying, just with that, especially including breath work as well, and then the visualization of light, how much that can actually truly help you feel better. But even from there's a real physical effect. I think that's one of the pieces that I challenge with trying to explain in my own sort of way, to people when I'm talking to people about, the work essentially that we do, and like our beliefs and things like that, is that I guess I go along with the, hey, well, just try it and see, and you'll be able to see, though there will be a physical change you'll see. Just because of in my past too, like encountering so many like different skeptics and things like that with the work that we do.
Absolutely. I had clients who came to me and they were like very skeptic. They were like, okay, let's try. And after the first session, they was like, wow.
Yeah, and going along with that too, it was funny when I actually first started my Reiki practice, and I was essentially only giving Reiki in-person sessions with people. I was in a program for other small businesses that were startups as well, and one of the individuals was very open-minded but extremely intelligent. I'm talking like genius level IQ, for his business, completely different business. And he came to see me just to be like, here, explain. It sounds so amazing what you're doing. And I'm like, I just come and experience it and have an open mind. That's all. And afterwards, I remember he was sitting in one of my chairs in my office and he was like, I don't know how to explain it, but something happened. And it was one of the most
So
real
cute.
conversations I've
Yeah.
had with a client, because it was such an authentic reaction too. Like,
Yeah.
he was so intelligent. He was trying to like quantify in his mind and trying to like explain what occurred. And he was like, I just can't. It was great.
When people asking me like, yeah, like if I see people that they are very skeptic, I am really lucky in the case that if you guys know Dr. Joe Dispenza, he's also in this healing area, and then he actually scientifically proved in neuroscience the effect of this meditation, and he used similar, like the activating the pineal gland, he used similar meditations in his practice. And then I didn't know about it until I had a client, and he said to me like, oh, I read this somewhere, here is the book. I was like, okay. And then I read the book of Dr. Joe Dispenza. I was like, okay, cool, now I'm gonna give this book to the skeptic ones. Because it's like it's already scientifically proven, I don't need to prove it.
I think that's great when we find scientific, studies that actually prove our theories of what we've been saying.
Yeah.
I was skeptical, especially with the Reiki. Uh, the my first experience with Reiki was with Amanda, and this was before we even started the podcast or even a thought of the podcast. And I went in and, okay, I'm gonna try this and da 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 da. I was feeling some anxiety and just wanted to see what it was all about. And I was I left feeling like, holy crap, boy do I feel better. What was that all about? And I find that every time I go in for a session with Amanda, I get a different experience. Like, and I've talked to Amanda about that a few times. I feel I experience uh, a different experience every time. Um, but it is me being a skeptic at first, and now receiving Reiki as many times as I have with Amanda. I highly suggest it. I highly suggest it for anybody because everybody, it's all about energy. And everybody has some sort of bad energy in their body that they need to release. And Reiki helps that. Now, I know I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. Reiki or Reiki? Let's help people out there explain that.
I think it might all depend on your accent or possibly like where you're from too. I always pronounce it Reiki.
Yeah, me too, Reiki. Yeah, I would love to add something to this Reiki healing thing. Like, I actually experienced that Reiki healing is very good for clearing the chakras, basically, and your body, energy body. But I still feel like it's a quick fix because you still have to come back, to get another one and get another one. So it's like, because what's happening to your body is actually when you get triggered, you block your chakras because the trigger is like you feeling certain negative emotions, and the negative emotion is blocking the chakra. So, and what area of your life you feeling that negative emotions? It depends which chakra is getting blocked. For example, if you have guilt and shame, or sorrow, or grief, or feeling lonely, that's your heart chakra. If you have relationship issues, abuse, or manipulation or something going on in your relationship, that's your sacral chakra is getting blocked. So there is always certain, like the root chakra is related to your roots, like ancestors, stability, security, finances. So all the chakras have like different way, like what's blocking it, what kind of emotions blocking it. So, and then some people can have like blocked several chakras, but not all of them, if they are having different emotions. So when you go to a Reiki session, basically it's helping you to clear out these blockages from the chakras as well. And then when you go out back to the word, big word, then you again get triggered, you again feeling some negative emotions, and then you go back to a Reiki session again. So that's why when you do the source memory healing and you really heal it from the root, then you're not getting triggered anymore from that situation. So your chakras not getting blocked from that situation. It's like that's why it's more sustainable to do a source memory healing. But I also realized with Reiki, if you do it consistently for like a really long time, like let's say for several months, I experienced this with clients and with myself as well. If you do it like for 6 months, like like every second day, let's say, because it's like 48 hours is like it's time, or every day. If you do it for 6 months, it's gonna bring a life-changing situation. Like it's really gonna shift your whole existence. But then you need to do it for like 6 months, like really long. What happened to me when I was doing for 6 months for myself, I actually shifted my whole eating habits overnight, literally. And then I stopped eating certain food because my body didn't want it to like not my body but my mind didn't want it to accept it anymore. I knew like a big reprogramming happened. So I didn't eat anymore like white flour, white sugar, dairy products, and alcohol, for example. That was cut it out overnight, literally. And then it's helped me to drop 20 kilos within 10 months. So I was 73 kilos and went to 53 in 10 months. And I went from size L to size S, basically, because I was doing consistently the Reiki for 6 months time. And then I had a client who had heart issues, one of the artery had some issues, and he sometimes had like attacks, and he got like blackout. He had to go to hospital and stuff like that. I was started to healing him for 6 months, and after since then he has no more attacks basically. And then another person I did this, he actually attracted his life partner. Like he had like everything in life done, he was like happy, flappy, having finances, everything. He just missed a life partner. And then I was doing it, the healing for him, like for many months. Then eventually he met the woman of his life and
Oh,
then got married and stuff like that. So yeah, it needs to be consistent, but then it's like really life changing.
1,000% agree. It totally can be. And the interesting piece too is that as you were talking about Reiki, and then I mean, of course, consistent Reiki is super beneficial for everyone. Not only does it help you feel great, helps you change your mindset, helps your energy, which can help you in all different facets in life. But another one of the reasons why within my practice and within my clients, why I made sure and actually go out and get that certified professional life coach, spiritual coach, wellness coach certifications, and all my other certifications was because naturally in almost every single client, even if they started initially just coming to see me for Reiki, it would turn into some sort of coaching combination thing with the
Yes.
Reiki, right? And what we're doing at that point is we are doing the deeper work. And that was sort of like the realization of, sort of trying to get to that root source, that root cause, that root peace. Because if we talk about it, if we talk through it, if we try and actually release that in any sort of way, and it can actually be present, right? Especially once you're giving Reiki, then you can help release it too.
Yeah, and then what's the most important is forgiveness. Like you can only like release it through forgiveness when you let it go. And I know that many people feels awkward about it who got hurt, and they say, "Oh, if I forgive, I'm not gonna be justified. You know what happened to me." But the forgiveness is not for the person who betrayed you. The forgiveness is for you, for your own health and
it's so funny
well-being.
that you said that because for years I have talked to other uh, people that have gone through trauma, and they've told me you have to forgive Jane, and I just it wasn't even a conversation I wanted to have with anybody because, for one, who was I forgiving? Because the person that did this to me, that caused this trauma, I don't even know who he is. Another reason was, I don't even know if he shows any remorse. How do you forgive somebody that doesn't show remorse? And so I really I struggled with forgiveness for a long time. And then I found Oprah Winfrey. She had given a wonderful description of forgiveness. And it was, you're not forgiving that person, but you're forgiving the situation that you had no control over. And that was huge for me. That was my forgiving. Um, Years and years of people telling me I needed to forgive, and I couldn't understand it, and I couldn't comprehend what they were saying. It's like, how can I do that? And then once I heard that, I'm forgiving a situation I had no control over. Um, that was game changer for me. That changed a lot of things in my life and a lot of things within me. And yeah, it's funny that you brought that up because that is huge. You have to forgive.
Yeah, how I explain it to my clients is that to understand that only 5% of the time you use your conscious mind. The rest you use your superconscious mind and also the subconscious mind, and then also the superconscious mind is affecting your actions. So when someone is hurting you or do something to you, is most likely either in their subconscious or either controlled by the superconscious. So they are not from their conscious mind when they acting that way. So it's maybe they are under substance abuse, maybe they are affected through their programming, the environment, their parents, their family, or they are actually affected by the superconscious, which means it's your karma to experience this situation. So when you understand this, then you realize that, yeah, so that wasn't really a person you can point your finger on, because the universe is much bigger than that, right? So it's not the person who really wanted to hurt you or wanted to do this to you. It's like everything which is around you was affected this situation, even your vibration. So if you are in a lower vibration, you are attracting more lower vibrational situation to you. If you are in a higher vibration, you are attracting a more higher vibration situation to you. So even they say that if someone walks through the cemetery middle of the night feeling sad, is more likely to get attacked than someone who's not walking in those areas and feeling happy as well. So it's like your frequency is really also what it attracts as well.
Your frequency and vibration and what you actually attract, that is a really interesting concept. Certainly something that, that I believe as well. Hard to explain though. hard for I guess you can say a lot of the general masses to understand and explain. We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors. And now back to our episode. In your experiences with your clients at it, um, I mean, let's be real. There's a lot of misconceptions with trauma and with healing trauma. What are some of those misconceptions that you have experienced in working with your clients? And how do you think that we sort of move through that?
So the first thing, I mostly experience this misconception with people who are not my client yet, right? So, for example, the one thing what they say to me like, oh, I had traumas, but now the time passed. It was long time ago. No, I'm okay. So they believe that time heals, but it's not here. It doesn't heal, right? So that's one of the misconceptions. The second one is like, if I'm not thinking about that memory anymore, then most likely it's not impacting me anymore. So I don't have the flashbacks, I don't have the memory flashbacks, then it's most likely I don't have the PTSD anymore, or I'm not impacted. But if you're experiencing triggers, then you are still having PTSD. But the triggers, maybe you don't know that that anxiety, that stress, that whatever you reacting to certain things is actually related to your traumatic experiences you had. Or, for example, another one is like people think that if they just journal or if they just feel, that's enough. But it can be also dangerous because or speaking therapies, I have some, I heard people went to speaking therapy and they got worse because if the speaking therapy is all about just you speaking, and not like helping you to clear it or release it or forgive, it's just tell me your story. You only just stirring up the situation over and over again, basically, and then you bring it into the awareness every day. So it's just lowering there that black cloud, and then it can even bring you to suicidal thoughts or taking action on that. So I just recommend to, if you go into the rabbit hole, if you do the journaling and you go into the rabbit hole, then just know how to release it properly and let it go, not staying in that low vibration and just sit with it. I don't recommend that. Yeah.
Yeah, that actually is a really good point. Just making sure that you do actually know how to release it, because otherwise you can definitely, if you're trying to go internal, trying to go into that root place, do the work, drum all that up, you do have the potential to actually stay within that place if you don't know how to actually release it. So, Jane, during your intensive counseling that we've gone over on Invisible Tears, you definitely went through 7 years of intensive counseling that you did with your amazing therapist. Do you want to talk about some of the different things that she helped you work through?
Yeah, I did DMR. She taught me that. She gave me a lot of tools. Like uh, with my counseling, we addressed every symptom of my PTSD, every single one of them. And so she gave me little tools on how to cope with each one of my symptoms. Um, like one of the main ones was anger. I was very angry. I was a very angry person, like about everything with everybody. I was not a very pleasant person to live with for a long time. And I probably had burned quite a few bridges with friendship and family because of the amount of anger I had inside me. So a lot of it was with talking and understanding each one of my symptoms. I was able to do a lot of healing with that. Um, like, some of the tools that she gave me was, um, you know, oh, well, for an example, say I'm outside and I have a fly flying around me, irritating the heck out of me. The best thing I could do is take myself out of that situation instead of making the situation worse, with trying to swat the fly away and it's not going away. So that is one thing that I've learned is if I'm in a situation that I feel uncomfortable with or I know it's gonna, escalate, the best thing I could do is remove myself from that situation. Um, she gave me a lot of tools, but I think the biggest thing for me that I had to do was sit and talk about every single symptom I had with PTSD and, understand it. Address it and understand it were the 2 main things, because a lot of my symptoms I didn't even realize I had, because I was living 20 years, what I call in, survival mode, where a lot of my symptoms I just either hid or just didn't I ignored them and didn't realize I even had these symptoms until I actually saw them on paper and really sat and thought about it and said, "Oh my gosh, okay, yeah, I have that symptom." Um, like anxiety or anger or paranoia. There was a lot of symptoms I didn't even realize I had. Um, but I also had to talk a lot about my nightmares. I had really bad nightmares for years. And with talking about my nightmares and trying to understand why I'm having them and all the other healing that I was doing with all my other symptoms, that helped with my nightmares too. I can't even remember the last time I had a nightmare that had any connection with my attack whatsoever. With a lot of my symptoms, in the 7 years of talking about my symptoms, addressing them, and trying to understand, um, that was a lot of my healing. That was a great deal of my healing. Um, but it was a long process and it was a lot of work and it was not easy. And there was many times when I said, "I don't even wanna do this anymore." I almost thought that the counseling was triggering, a lot of emotions that I didn't have. And, you know, so there were a lot of times when I'd show up and didn't wanna go in because I didn't wanna be re-triggered. I didn't want the triggers to come back. But in reality, it was healing. Um, I had to go through all that pain. I had to revisit everything. I had to, talk about it and understand it to start healing. And that was huge. Um, that was huge. I suppressed everything for so long. I just, kept everything inside for so long. So when I started talking about everything, with my counselor and started addressing all these issues, it was really hard to face. It was like, "Oh my god, was I really that bad of a person?" You know? "Oh my god, I can't believe I did have that stuff. I can't believe my mind was reacting so negatively to so many things in my life." And the counseling was, my way of really facing everything I had been going through and everything I was dealing with head on. And, really, I had to look at the ugly me, the very, very ugly me, so I could fix the ugly me. And, now I'm living a very happy, healthy life that I never thought I could have because of all the counseling.
It was interesting that you said like she taught you tools to mitigate or to manage those symptoms, right?
Yes.
That's what you said, right? So with the source memory healing, you basically when we cure it from the root, you don't need to anymore like mitigate or manage, because they're not gonna come to you, or not, you're not gonna feel those. And the thing is that you talked about 7 years. It's really long for me, because I actually have my
Yeah.
programs like 30 days. So with 4 sessions in a 30 days incubator, I can reach, like, for example, I had panic attack, people with panic attacks, severe panic attacks. In 30 days, she went from crying all the time, unable to, go outside or do anything, to the point that happily going back to the uni, continue studying. So this source memory healing is so powerful, so fast and gentle. So when you go to a session, you ending up the session light and happy, not drained and, feeling exhausted. Because I had a client came to me and he said, oh, no, I had a client who referred someone to me, but before even became my client. So he knew me as a friend, but he never had my sessions, but he had other kinds of healings. And then he referred a guy to me, and then he was telling him like, oh, you're probably going to feel drained and bad about the session, don't worry about it. And the guy came to me, and then we did the session, and he was relieved and happy. And then I was like, oh yeah, probably he told you that because he was with someone else. And then he came eventually to my session and then see the difference, because if you go through the process the way how I release it and replace the negativity with positivity, at the end you are relieved and lighter and happier. So you go into those memories, but just for like a couple of minutes until you grab the emotions to release, and then you leave that memory, and then you forgive and let it go, and then you basically rewrite your past. That's what we do. We rewrite the past in the Akashic records, and then you create a brand new future energetically.
But some of mine was like really, really deep because I also went through survivor's guilt. And I really for a long time I blamed myself for putting myself into that situation that made me so unsafe, and the situation that caused my attack. So I blame myself a lot for that. And I also received a few hate letters telling me that I should have never put myself in that situation and stop playing the victim card and blah 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 blah. So these letters I read to myself for a lot of years because it was almost like they were confirming everything I was feeling for 20 years. And I was taking full responsibility for what happened to me, which I had no control over. So she really had to I when I started counseling with her, I was totally convinced that I was responsible for my attack. It was my fault. Chose to stop at that store that night. So she had to really work hard with me to make me understand that this was not my fault. His actions is what caused my trauma, not my actions. So she did have to really dig deep to to help me.
Yeah, so most of the client has guilt, of course. So even they go through abuse, or they go through any kinds of like relationship issues, or even going, I had a client who got raped 3 times since her teenage years until her 50s, or 4 times, like getting into similar situations. And she knew it was also her fault, why she allowed that to happen over and over again, and then it creating more PTSD for herself. So basically guilt is a big thing in many times in PTSD with all of my clients, because even a child, they feel sometimes, like if we go back like inner child healing, like the memory when they are a child, sometimes they have guilt as a child, like, yeah, probably I've done something wrong, that's why I was punished, and so on and so forth. So that's one of the biggest thing, and it's the blocking the heart chakra, and causing physical issues with the heart, with the chest, with with those areas. So basically, guilt is always there many times to release, or in relationship issues when, okay, I'm not doing well with my husband, and that I also felt guilty about this and that. Is always there. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like you're doing some amazing work with your clients. And I definitely have to say that I'm going to be checking out your specific meditation as well. I'm going to be checking that out. Can we actually get to that through your website?
Yes, if you go to my website, editbkis.com, all my social links are there. So if someone wants to connect with me, they can connect through the website, booking a session, or basically a VIP strategy session. They can book that from the first page. And also there is WhatsApp connection and email. And then also they can connect to my Instagram or Facebook, and also to YouTube. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yep. And I saw all your books are listed there too, that you've written or participated in. And I saw that you had a link to your podcast on there as well. So we'll make sure and actually put your website in our show notes on the episode once it airs. Is there anything else, Edit or Jane, that you guys have that you want to put out there before we go ahead and wrap
Actually,
up?
I recently opened my school community. I am not sure if you guys know about school. So school is a platform where there are communities exist, and in a school community there is training materials, meditations. Also, we have a live training weekly. So it's a community where you can also connect with the people there, like-minded people who's going through the same journey. And I had this group. I have a group coaching. Basically, it's called Elevate since last year, and now I moved them into school. So it's like they are in this community now, so people can join from all over the place. And I have a 7 days free trial there right now. It's called Release with Ease. That's the name of the school community, and you can just come in for 7 days, check it out. The meditation library there is different than my playlist in the YouTube channel. Obviously, it's a much more powerful, deeper release meditations. There is also a course there called Life Transformation System course, and the weekly meeting, you can join one of the event, basically 90-minute session with me, like group session in that week, because it's a 7 days trial. So, and also another option. And the funny thing is that when I'm asking my clients, like, what do you like about this school community, or what do you like about the Elevate group coaching, I'm always like hoping that they say like, oh, how you help us to heal, or how is your tools and stuff like that they are like, I love being in a community. I love that other people is sharing similar things what I'm going through. And I was like, okay. So it's like that's what they love.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Communities are important. Absolutely, in every aspect. Jane, did you have anything else for Edit before we go ahead and close out?
Not really. Just thank you so much for passing on so much information. Uh, a lot of it was stuff I hadn't heard about before. So yeah, we'll definitely post all your information, and yeah, I definitely want to learn more about what you're doing. I'll definitely be buying a book or two and checking it out.
Thank you so much.
Checking out this meditation too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
so the books are also available on Amazon, so it's easier to grab them on Amazon, which is on my website. Is basically if you want an autographed copy, so then you can buy it from the website. But that's for the autographed copy. But other than that, you can just check out the title from Amazon, and it's much cheaper there, obviously.
We'll definitely do that.
We absolutely will. So, Edit, thank you so much for joining us today, and take care.
Thank you. I really enjoyed this conversation,
Yeah, it
ladies.
was a great conversation.
I did
loved
too.
it. All right, we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of Invisible Tears. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast to hear all future episodes. Click into our link tree too in the episode description to find and follow us on all our social medias. And it also links to our website, invisible-tears.com, where you can keep current on any events that may be coming up, read more about Jane and the team, and read more about all the Connecticut River Valley unsolved cases. Evil may exist in this world, but we will not let it win. See you next episode.